Well, our year-long national nightmare of a year is over! So now what? I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling vlog who always tells it like it is. Yeah, I know it's arbitrary and all that jazz, but it just feels awesome to have that worst period, year period, ever period in our rearview mirror. 2021 may still have COVID-19, which, by the way, took a family member away from me yesterday. Vaya con Dios, Aunt Peggy. But having the first vaccine out and others on the way helps make this year a little more optimistic. Well, that and the election that doesn't seem to want to end, but yeah, I can understand why some people aren't optimistic about that. But anyway, what a year it was for all the world. And yeah, I know talking about how it affected the WWE is kind of petty given the millions who caught COVID-19 and the nearly 2 million that died from it. Not to mention that those that died in the wildfires and protests that are still going on, and the economic strain it's put on the world. Plus, we lost several celebrities that we've grown to love, but, you know, this is a WWE vlog, and I want to talk about how last year affected them. And boy, howdy did it affect them. I think it's safe to say that this was the worst year the WWE has ever had. I mean, started pretty hopeful, right? Edge returning at the Royal Rumble, Charlotte and Drew McIntyre winning the Rumbles, Shayna Baszler kicking all sorts of ass in the Elimination Chamber, a quasi-decent Saudi Arabian pay-per-view, well, except for the fact that Goldberg became champ again and more or less murdered the Fiend character. You know, things were looking pretty bright. And then COVID-19 started its sweep across America. And though it seemed to be relatively under control, until a certain soon-to-be ex-POTUS started making people think it wasn't that bad, the WWE did what all other sports and entertainments did. It went into lockdown. But sports entertainment felt it needed to keep going in spite of things, so the WWE just locked itself into the Performance Center in Orlando and kept the fights going in a quiet arena of sorts. And I think it hit fans the hardest when WrestleMania, the showcase of the Immortals, the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, the grandest stage of them all, set an all-time record for worst attendance. And while I liked it and thought it was pretty good, all things considered, there's no doubt that the business was not going to be the same until COVID-19 went away. For 5 months, WWE stayed cooped up in the Performance Center without a fan in sight. Now, in the last month or two, they tried to spruce things up by having NXT and Evolve talent to cheer them on, but it just wasn't the same. And this was compounded by NXT starting to become spreaders at Full Sail and bringing it to the PC. Not only that, but the lockdown caused the writers to come up with two of the dumbest angles ever. WWE Underground and Retribution. I have no idea if Shane McMahon had anything to do with the idea for the Underground, but I pity him coming back this way. Having has-beens and never-will-be's treat a ropeless ring like Hulk Hogan and the recently departed Zeus did in No Holds Barred, and then letting the already made-its charge in and humiliate them. Is it any wonder I didn't count those matches in my rankings? It's like the WWE weighed the odds that this would take off against the odds that it was a terrible idea, and they went and did it anyway. And Retribution. It's the bad idea that refuses to die. Really? This is all they could think of to get Dominic Dijakovic, Dio Madden, Shane Thorne, and Mia Yim on the A Show as terrorists who believed they weren't getting the respect they deserve? Thank God Mercedes Martinez got the hell out of there fast, but adding Mustafa Ali to the party as their leader? This needs to end soon. We can only take so much of them beating up Ricochet before we tune them out completely. And at least 2 of them end up looking for jobs in AEW. Now, just before SummerSlam, things got a little better. The WWE moved to the Amway Center nearby, set up monitors throughout the place, let the WWE Universe get their mugs on said monitors, which is all people really go to live shows for anyway, am I right? And called it the Thunderdome. At least they were able to do a fair bit more in an empty arena than in an empty performance center. Yeah, the actual attendance was still 0, even though the idiot governor said arenas could open to 100% capacity if they wanted to. Thank God WWE didn't follow through with that. But that and the piped-in crowd noise did make things look like a normal WWE event. And the fact that they have Tropicana Field to themselves until spring training starts helps keep the streak of Royal Rumbles in baseball stadiums going. But financially, I'm sure this has been the worst for the WWE so far. True, I don't think a majority of their revenue comes from the crowds paying to see their gladiators fight for their amusement. Sure, most of that comes from sponsors and shopwwe.com, etc. But I'm sure it hurt them pretty badly nonetheless, and not being able to go to Saudi Arabia to pick up those Sultan's ransoms must really give Vince ulcers. Pardon. But you know, with the new year comes new hope. Sooner or later, enough people will be vaccinated so that live events can be held safely, even if face masks are needed, just to be sure. I think that WrestleMania will have a crowd this year, though a smaller, socially distant crowd, and it will be held in Raymond James Stadium because, well, I don't think Los Angeles wants the WWE there until the pandemic has passed. I mean, hell, California has already kicked all their football teams out of the state. They're not going to let people in to see what is considered more entertainment than sport. Exactly when will the WWE get back to the capacity crowds and arenas all over the country and the world? It depends on the vaccines and how well they work, and whether or not any separate strains of COVID-19 will rear their ugly heads and work around said vaccines. I feel crowds will start being let in at wherever the Thunderdome is after WrestleMania, though sparse and well spaced. Over the time, crowds will get bigger, and with any luck, maybe SummerSlam 2021 will have a full house. After that, it's a matter of time until other states lift restrictions, and then things will be back to normal for the WWE. The only question left is, can the writers last until then? Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling blogger who always tells it like it is. Stay safe, and I'll see you.